everybody. Good morning. We hope that you're having a wonderful start to your Saturday, and we're so glad to be coming to you here at our KCC online campus. If you're joining us for the first time, somebody from our church shared this video and it popped up in your feed, or somehow you stumbled across our YouTube channel and are watching this now. We want to welcome you. Everybody's welcome here at KCC, and this is something that we've been doing all month long, each morning at 9 a.m. in the month of December. We've been reading from a devotional book called Come, Let Us Adore Him by Paul David Tripp. And what we found is it's just a nice way to kind of start our days together, kind of bring ourselves before God, and just, in a brief moment of time together, just to start our days off on the right foot and kind of get our hearts right as we're living through and experiencing what's probably a Christmas unlike any other that any of us have ever experienced in our lives. So I'm going to jump right into the reading today for December the 12th, and I hope that it will be a blessing and probably on this day, a challenge to you as well. Actually, the very first sentence you'll find is a challenge, but let's hang in with it together because it gets really good. The birth of Jesus was bad news. Whoa. See why I say like it? Even the first sentence is like, what? Yeah, let's read on. The birth of Jesus was bad news. Now, it wasn't your typical piece of bad news. It was the worst news ever. And maybe you're thinking right now, what in the world are you talking about? How could there be any better news than the coming of the Messiah to earth? Well, you need to understand that there are two parts to the Christmas story, and you need both parts to make proper sense out of the whole thing. The part of the story that tends to get the big billing, and it should, is the amazing, miraculous narrative of God putting on human flesh and coming to earth in the form of a baby. How amazing it is to think that God lay in that manger. God was suckled by Mary. God grew up in Mary and Joseph's house. God walked the dusty streets of Palestine. God endured hunger, rejection, physical pain, injustice, and yes, even death. Remember, the miracle of Jesus' birth is that he was fully God and fully man. God gave himself to us in outrageous redemptive love. God exposed himself to what we all face in this terribly broken and dysfunctional world. This story is so amazing, so beyond our normal categories for making sense of things, and so beautiful that it's hard to wrap the thoughts of your brain around it. God has come to earth. Could there ever be better news than this? But there is a second part of the story that makes God's shocking work of intervention make sense. Why would God do this? What would motivate him to go to such an unthinkable extent? Whenever you see people do the unexpected or the unusual, it's natural to ask, why? This is where the Christmas story is the worst news ever. I'm going to ask you to humbly open your heart to this second part of the story. God has to invade our world in the person of Jesus because there simply is no other way. And why was there no other way? Prepare for the bad news. Here it is. There was no other way because our big problem in life is not familial or historical or societal or political or relational or ecclesiastical or financial. The biggest, darkest thing that all of us have to face and that somehow, some way influences everything we say and do isn't outside of us at all. It's inside. If you had none of the above problems in your life, you would still be in grave danger because of the danger that you are to yourself. I'm going to read that again. If you had none of the above problems in your life, think about everything you think is a problem in your life. If you had none of those outside problems, you would still be in grave danger because of the danger you are to yourself. If the only thing human beings needed were a little external tweaking of their life circumstances, then the coming of Jesus to earth wouldn't make any sense. But if the greatest danger to all of us lives inside of us, not outside, then the radical intervention of the incarnation of Jesus is our only hope. Oh, sure, you can run from a bad relationship. You can quit a bad job. You can move out of a dangerous neighborhood. You can leave a dysfunctional church, but you have no ability whatsoever to escape yourself. You and I have no ability to rescue ourselves from the greatest danger in our lives, and that's ourselves. This means that without the birth of Jesus, we would be doomed to be destroyed by the danger that lurks inside of us from our first moment of breath. You don't need to look far in the Bible to know what this danger is. Its stain is on every page of Scripture. Romans 3:23 exposes this danger with a few simple words, that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Sin is the bad news of the Christmas story. Jesus didn't come to earth to do a preaching tour or to hang out with us for a little while, to get to know us better. He came on a radical mission of moral rescue. He came to rescue us because he knew that we could not rescue ourselves. He knew that sin separates us from God and leaves us guilty before him. He knew that sin makes us active enemies against God, and what he says is good, right, and true. He knew that sin blinds us to the gravity of our condition and our dire need for help. He knew that sin would cause us to replace the worship of God with an unending catalog of things that capture the deepest allegiances of our hearts. He knew that sin renders us, all of us, unable to live as we were designed to live. And he knew that sin is the final terminal disease that, without help and healing, would kill us all. But the Christmas story tells us something more. It tells us that Jesus knew that even if we were aware of the greatest danger within us, that in our own wisdom and strength, we could not fix ourselves. To every human being, sin is the ultimate undefeatable enemy. It captures us and controls us, and there is nothing we can do. It is either the height of arrogance or the depth of delusion to think that you're okay just the way you are. None of us is okay apart from the invasion of grace that is at the core of Jesus' coming. Now, if you're like me, you have trouble believing this bad news. When you do something wrong, you probably try to blame it on stress or sickness or a bad boss or a troublesome spouse or a nerve-wracking child or just the generic pressures of life. When others come to you and point out you're wrong, your initial response is probably not to be thankful. If you're like me, you jump to your own defense because it's hard to believe that you're a sinner in need of saving. So I want to encourage you today in a fresh way to accept the bad news of the Christmas story, because if you do, the good news becomes all the more comforting and glorious. The Christmas story tells you that you have been freed forever from denying or minimizing the danger that lives inside you, because Jesus came to rescue you, forgive you, transform you, and ultimately deliver you. That baby in the manger carried with him to earth everything that sinners need. It's only when you admit that need that you will be able to fully celebrate the solution that is Jesus. Wow, so like I said, a challenging, humbling reading to begin our Saturday together, but I hope that in the midst of your Christmas celebration, you will remember the reason why Jesus had to come the way he did, why he had to be born the way he was born, and why he had to live the way he lived, and why he had to die the way he died, and really why he had to rise the way he did. It's because that he's the only one who can heal us, who can save us, who can deliver us. The answer and the solution to our problems is not within ourselves, because the problem is within ourselves. We need someone to save us, heal us, and deliver us. And his name is Jesus. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. If this has been an encouragement or a challenge to you, we would love it if you'd share this video on your social media feeds, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. for our next time of Advent devotion together.